Hello and welcome back, everyone. It's just another day in the life as a military wife. And this week, I am getting the opportunity to sit down with an incredible military spouse as she talks about her journey from ballerina to pilot, what brought her to those decisions in her life, and how she's making it all work as a military spouse and a homeschooling mom. So we are going to meet Kasia today and just have some fun talking about what she does for fun. As always, I'm your host, Sam Wolf, and you're listening to Life of a Military Wife. All right, Kasia, why don't you introduce yourself to my listeners?
All right. I am obviously a military spouse. My husband's in the Army. He's been in for quite a minute, and we have 4 kiddos. I do have a dance degree, but I am currently working on flight training.
So when you say dance degree, what did you study? How long? What did you do?
I have it's just a BA in dance performance. I was going to switch to dance education my last year, but my husband's career was indicating that we would be moving, and I had our first kiddo, and I didn't want to try to figure out college life and first kiddo extension without family. And so I just wrapped it up. So it was my favorite, honestly, is ballet. But towards the end of my college time, I was doing mostly contemporary, actually.
Okay. So what have you, I know that you have continued your love of dance and you've continued to be able to do stuff with dance,
Mhm.
regardless of military crazy. What does that look like for you?
The wonderful thing about dance is that genuinely is everywhere in various levels, at various levels. So for me, apart from just dancing in the kitchen, I'll try to find classes. Um, we've tended to live in smaller areas, not very big metropolitan areas. This is the biggest area we've ever been in here in Colorado Springs. So it's mostly been classes with teenagers. But on the rare occasion, I've been able to go to adult classes. There were enough adults interested. And I'm just going to put it out there that even if you've ever thought of taking a dance class, I highly recommend it so that we can have more adult dance classes if that interest is there. It is so freeing doing dance as an adult because you're not worrying about all the things that teenage girls have to worry about. And so doing it as an adult it's just liberating, and you can just come away feeling good. All the teachers are thrilled to have you there, whatever genre it is. It doesn't matter if it's ballet, tap, hip hop, modern, ballroom, any of it. They're just excited to have adult students come share their passion. I have been very blessed to, upon taking classes, the studio owners would reach out to me for also being an instructor. I've done that twice. And time permitting, depending on the phase of life we've been in, I've been able to teach some classes, and that's been really fun. Here, our current area, I'm at a wonderful studio. They have some professionals, like genuine professionals, teaching and choreographing at this studio. So I'm not teaching right now for various reasons, but it has been such an incredible blessing to be able to participate in it still.
I love that. I love that you've continued to do that wherever you are. And I think sometimes as military spouses, we think, oh, we're constantly on the go. We have to give up everything. We don't have to give it up. And we can find and reinvent and experience things in all those different areas and maybe learn from people that we would have never had a chance to learn from or interact with had we not been vagabonds. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Being able to make so many new friends with different experiences, backgrounds, perspectives, it just adds to the whole uh, dynamic that then becomes a part of you. And you can participate in giving to others. I love the collaboration of it.
oh,
It's
yeah.
great.
Especially for creative endeavors, I can only imagine being exposed to more people and environments and situations is inspiring.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so but ballet dancer, dancer in general, now pilot. How did that happen?
It's always been something on my radar, I guess. I've always enjoyed, oh look, airplane, like most kids do. Um, Growing up in the military, as well as being a spouse, I was actually around the aviation side quite a bit growing up with my dad's job. And so I've always, been in the hangar. I've been in various aircraft. We took a family trip when I was younger in a C-130, like seats against the side of the plane and everything, headsets just to muffle the sound. And I just thought it was the coolest thing. But that dance is kind of an expensive hobby, and so is flying. So being the oldest of several kids, I was like, that's probably not going to happen. Don't worry about it. I love dance. That's my thing. I just was pretty simple minded that way. It was fine. And then we moved here, and Colorado Springs is known for its aviation between Colorado Springs and Denver, especially. There are multiple flight schools around here, and the Air Force Academy has an aero club, and so does Peterson. Yes, so the aero club is there are only a handful of aero clubs in the country. They're programs using Air Force planes, Air Force craft, that military members can learn and train in. And that includes dependents as well as the active service member. So my husband and I were driving one day. We were headed up to Denver. And that's about an hour and a half drive that we had. We were just talking, and we were talking big, big dreams and goals and plans, and just where do we think all of this is headed? Um, and he had mentioned to the kids how he did this driving course, and I was like, man, that would be so cool. It's like the whole Fast and the Furious driving course, right? Like it's just cool. Um, and then as you go up to Denver from Colorado Springs, you pass the Air Force Academy. And so I'm seeing all these little planes zooming around, and I'm like, man, that would be so cool too. And my husband just looks at me. He's driving, but he glances at me, and I'm like, what? And he's like, why don't you just do it? So I took that and I ran with it before he could change his mind.
Good girl.
But I know, right? But as I've been training, it's funny because little moments throughout my life have come back to me. Shortly after completing ground school, I went and visited my parents, and they looked at me and they were like, "Do you remember when we moved from Alaska to Hawaii? That was quite a jump. You're obviously on a plane for that. We were flying over just some of the mountains before we got out towards the ocean, and I was just glued to the window, just taking it all in. I just loved it. And I don't recall this myself, but this is what they told me. I turned and I looked at them and I said, yeah, I could do this for the rest of my life. That'd be fine. And there are just little moments like that. Or I'm the one that would initiate taking my kids to the airplane museum at every installation we've been to that has one, you know? So yeah, it's just kind of always been there. And now I'm just seizing the moment. You only have that day for sure. You know, I only have this day right now. So I'm just gonna take it and run with it.
That's awesome. I love that. That's inspiring because sometimes I think we're like, I've done this, like, oh, I'll pursue my career again, or I'll do XYZ thing when my husband gets out. We can't wait till our husbands retire to start our lives. That's
Right.
just not realistic.
Right. We're living too. We need to be able to enjoy our life as well. You know, we try to give our kids opportunities. If we have children, we try to give them their opportunities, and that's wonderful. We can't forget ourselves too. Make sure our
Oh, yeah.
husbands have their careers on track, you know, support them. We are also important and valued.
I know you juggle a lot. You're still doing dance. You've got the four kids, and I know you serve in your community. How do you juggle all of that and get a pilot's license at the same time?
Um, Understanding that my path is going to look different than other people's paths. That has been the biggest key for me, to realize I do have a lot on my plate and all good things. They're all important to me. Making sure to prioritize my health and my family, and everything else falls into place.
That's important. I think as moms and or women, sometimes we forget our health. Like we're worried about our husband's health who is a service member so he can, go do his daring do's or our kids, but we don't always think about, oh, we need to stay healthy too.
Yeah, physically and mentally.
Hmm.
Making sure, you know, get outside, remember what the sun feels like and the grass in our toes. Um, and and yeah, take the time to just enjoy life, as well as, you know, put your nose to the grind.
So if anyone is listening and they think, hey, I want to pursue this, would you have any pointers for any military spouses or anyone else who's wanting to pursue aviation?
Yeah, so for the military community, there are only a handful of these aero clubs, but if you're near one, I highly recommend it. They have every, well, I'm pretty sure every flight school will do discovery flights where an instructor goes up with you and they're like, hey, so this is what it's like to fly a small plane. And they do the same thing for helicopters if you want, but helicopters are just in general more expensive. So maybe start with a plane and then head over to the helicopter. But having the aero clubs is a wonderful benefit that we have. It just they are able to do things in bulk, like fuel and parts and things. And so that cost is easier for dependents. You do need to have some kind of plan before you start off with it. I know he said, okay, so why don't you fly? My husband said, why don't you fly? And so I just did it. But we had been tucking money away for a while. We do want to buy a house when we move, so we've had to evaluate the finances, but we did have enough tucked away. As a military member, you know, we have the GI Bill, we have VA benefits. Depending on whether or not the service member is using that, then it can go to the dependents. My husband has other plans for his, so I am not using it. That does make it more expensive. So you definitely need to make sure that your finances are set because it is a pretty big cost up front. Over time, I know it will pay off, but at the outset, it is a big cost, and so just to be mindful of that. And then that helps with studying too. Like, I want to make sure I make every penny count, those in those lessons, my flight lessons, my training, every penny counts. So I'm motivated to be prepared for that lesson. I don't want to have to repeat things if I don't need to. Obviously, mistakes are made. That's part of the learning process, but trying to be as prepared as possible, get your ducks in a row, and have a great support system. I just realized I hadn't mentioned that. That is huge. That's everything, especially for military spouses. You have to have that support, whether you have kids or not. If you have kids, obviously, trying to learn how to fly, you're going to have to figure out, well, my spouse is gone. Who's going to have the kids? Do you have your village? Because you cannot do it without them. But even if you don't have kids, to just have your group of cheerleaders cheering you on to get through. It is a lot of work, as any of you who have studied for any career or personal development. It's a lot of work, and so have your support system as well.
About how much would you recommend people save up if this is something they want to pursue, just to have ready to get started? It's a
You can
recommendation, so this the not hard and fast.
you can Google some different figures. You just type it in, you'll get some different things. It's I mean, you're gonna want to make sure you have at least 20K in some kind of plan
Okay.
throughout the
So
course
20
of that
grand more or less.
initial training. It's a whole other, you can equate it to a whole other degree. It's
Oh
not a
yeah.
degree, but well, it can be actually.
Well,
You can go to school for
it's
this.
still
So,
it's a career path. So yeah.
it's a whole thing.
Okay.
Have at least that in mind. But the things that you can do with it, I know that's a big number to kind of have to swallow at first, but the things you can do with it.
Oh yeah, but like if you're a young military spouse just starting out and you hear that number, it can be overwhelming, but then you think, okay, if I can set aside a couple $100 a month into
Hmm.
savings, then maybe when my kids are a little bit older and finding babysitters is not as big of a deal, or they're old enough to supervise themselves for shorter periods of time or whatever, I can start pursuing this. So it allows people to plan when they kind of have a ballpark on what to look for. And we're not going to
Exactly.
be military spouses forever. Maybe we won't be able to start pilot lessons right away or a podcast or like one of the other ladies I'm interviewing, she wrote a book. I'm sure she didn't plan on writing a book when she first became a military spouse, but it happened later. But we can start dreaming, putting these ideas together, planning and preparing and researching. So that's awesome. What is if you want to share what is your pie in the sky dream you want to do with this once you're a full-fledged pilot, you got there, whatever there is.
I'm still forming that dream. It's a little vague right now. I mean, any pilot will tell you, you keep learning. It's never going to stop. You continue to learn something new. I know this sounds so cliche, but it's true. I know I want to help people. What direction that takes is yet to be defined. I'll know it when I'm there. I'm going to at least, so you start with your private pilot certificate, and then you can And then you can get a commercial and then airline type rating. I'm at least going to get a commercial. I'm currently working on an instrument rating. So there are multiple steps left. I know that, the near goals are there, making sure that we're planning for those next trainings, that's more money and time. There are a lot of great nonprofits, and not-for-profits. There are more options than I realized, I should say. I guess I should say is there are just so many more options than I realized. It's not just the airlines.
Well, there's
There's so
there's
much.
Life Flight. Like, I just in talking, I was like, well, there's Life Flight. The fire department has those planes that dump the water. There's search and rescue. There's actually lots of different things we use pilots for that are service and, you know, community, like those sorts of things. Not to mention the more, exciting ones like, rescuing people or whatever. There's lots of stuff. But yeah, that
Exactly,
honestly, being a life
exactly.
flight pilot would probably be pretty awesome to just help get people in need to where they need to go.
Yes, and that's definitely high on my list. It's part of what my dad's career was. It definitely is inspirational. It touches lives individually. That would be amazing. I will say, even if, knock on wood, I, just crush it with all of this. I know I will, but I'm in the thick of it. So it's a lot right now. Even just being an instructor, we need good instructors. And, so air quotes, just an instructor. That's a really important piece of this whole puzzle. So yeah, whatever direction it takes, it's going to be awesome. Yeah, survey work, uh, the medical field, sheriffs and police departments, they use
Hmm.
them. So many different avenues to take.
Thank you so much for coming on and talking about this. I know you're in the middle of it and it can probably feel a little overwhelming, but I am really grateful for you. Um, any any last bit of wisdom, anything else you you covered everything you wanted to say?
I should have thought of this sooner. I've been like,
That's okay.
any last thing. I think just that having your own identity is important as an individual. Juggling multiple hats is great. Um, Make sure you're doing something you love, and don't stop learning. And really, like I said, that support system is so important, but so is the belief in yourself. So if you can set aside time, you'll make it. It'll happen.
Well, I agree. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for talking about this. And yeah, good luck. Wrapping up this week's episode, I want to take the opportunity to thank Kasha again for carving time out of her crazy busy schedule and sharing her insights and experience with us in the journey of being a dancer and now transitioning into becoming a pilot. It is really important that as military spouses, we find things that we are passionate about that we can do and take with us from duty station to duty station. And I'm grateful that she had the opportunity to share her dreams with us this week. Please remember to like, share, subscribe, click it, and that way we can break the algorithm barriers and get this message out to as many members of the military community as possible to just build this support system and structure where we can encourage and uplift and support each other as members of the military community, whether we are veterans, active duty spouses, or family members of military service members. So thank you for all of your support. If you know a veteran, military spouse, or anyone who is affiliated with the military community that would like to be on the podcast to share what they are doing in their life or a resource they have that could assist the military community, please feel free to reach out and let me know so that I can have you on the podcast or them. And as always, let's be the good that we want to see in the world. I am your host, Sam Wolf, and you're listening to Life of a Military Wife.